Hunter V. Norris here with Arizona's Family, and today I'm talking with independent filmmaker Joe Burke about his excellent film Burt. So, how do you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, Hunter. Thank you for having me on. We met, as the audience might know, at the Phoenix Film Festival last year. We've kept in touch. I'm a big fan of yours as well, and I appreciate you giving us a chance to talk about the movie today.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you talking to me about it. It's such a great film. I'm so happy that you guys finally got distribution so you can get to a wider audience. So, it's been a little over a year since Burt won Best Film at the 2025 Phoenix Film Festival. I see your Copper Wing Award behind you on your shelf, proudly displayed. It's very nice. So, what's it feel like to have such a warm reception and to finally have your film released to a wider audience?
Oh man! First of all, so excited. Playing Phoenix was great. It was our second film festival after our world premiere at CineQuest in March of 2025 last year. So we did CineQuest. A few weeks later, I went to Phoenix. One Best Picture, one Best Ensemble. It's amazing. We teamed up with a company called Film Hub. What Film Hub does is they're really an aggregator. They give independent filmmakers like ourselves a chance to kind of do like a self distribution model where we get to keep ownership of the movie, but they take a percentage, help us get on all the platforms, and they've actually extra embraced this film because they really do believe in it. They love the movie, which is wonderful. So it's sort of a mix of both, right? They're definitely helping us distribute the film, but we still own the movie, which is great as an independent filmmaker making a movie with a micro budget of $7,000 production budget that we'll talk about, and we do a lot of the legwork, right? So it's like me over here all day emailing people about the movie, press, reviewers, articles, whatever we can do, whatever press we can get on this thing. But we did do a self-generated theater tour this past year from Alaska to Maine and everywhere in between, Phoenix, and some film festivals, some me just reaching out to independent art house theaters saying, hey, will you program our movie Burt for a week? And to our surprise, they said yes, and we did a 50-50 rev share split in a bunch of these places. So anyways, that all to be said, it feels amazing. I've been basically working on this movie all day, every day for about 3 years, thinking about it longer than that. But the actual from shooting to post to everything in between, it's been about a 3 year journey. I finally get to let the movie into the world, and I'm excited. I'm excited. We're so fortunate to have a huge support from our family and friends. Just people really respond to the movie, and that's, as a filmmaker who's been doing this for a long time, you always want to make stuff that the audience can just really feel something from, laugh, cry, get emotion, enjoy it, tell their friends about it. And I feel like we made something special with this movie, Burt. So it feels great.
It's so funny, so heartfelt, just great performances. And
Thank
it's
you.
not just about the movie, there's a little bit more to Burt. It's great to get the film out there for everybody to see, but the release of it is also about something more. Lead actor Burt Berger,
Yeah.
he has Parkinson's disease,
Yep.
and some of the proceeds for the film are going to be going towards Parkinson's.
Yeah, so Burt Berger does have Parkinson's disease, as does my own dad. And Burt and my dad are exactly the same age. They were diagnosed roughly the same time. I think more officially, my dad was diagnosed a few years before Burt officially. But Burt is a singer-songwriter. He moved to LA in 1974 to pursue music. Never quite made it. Never quite made the albums. Never had that kind of dream career. But he just always kept going, and he always kept playing music. And he was playing, at restaurants and open mics. And that's how I actually met him 15 years ago. He was playing at a restaurant in Malibu on the weekends. Big beautiful smile, and got to know him over the years. And anyway, so it was in this like 15 years of getting to know him. He was eventually diagnosed with Parkinson's, and like I said, my dad was too. And so when it was time to make this movie, it was basically now or never, with the Parkinson's diagnosis. And I've been thinking about making a movie with Burt for like many years, even before Parkinson's. I just wanted to make a movie with him because he's so special and so interesting and lovely. And I love his music. And I just felt like the world needs to know who this guy is. But once the Parkinson's diagnosis came along, then it was really like, now or never. The Parkinson's will progress. We want to capture him playing music. We want it to be honoring his life and his spirit. And so we just said, all right, let's get some money together. We got $7,000 that we were able to get, and we shot the movie fairly quickly after that moment. And we are donating a portion of all proceeds on the initial release from from all the sales to PCLA here in Los Angeles, which is a very cool Parkinson's community organization. They do a lot for the community events. We've teamed up with them a few times this year doing screenings and stuff throughout Los Angeles. And so very excited to kind of, be putting out this movie for a good cause as well, and hopefully getting people in the Parkinson's community, which we've already had many in the Parkinson's community, see this film and appreciate it. But just, I think it's something special for everyone, not just their community, but hopefully all families and people who enjoy the movie.
One thing I loved about Burt, like I said before, it's just so funny. The dialogue that you and your co-writer Oliver Cooper, who also
Yes.
stars in the lead role, is incredibly sharp. So did that dialogue come to you guys easily, or how much ad lib with the actors was involved? Because I imagine Stephen Levy had kind of some strong opinions of what his dialogue might be,
Yeah,
but how did that
Steve.
all come about?
Totally. I'm laughing because once people watch the movie and they see who Steve is Burt's real life roommate of 12 years. They were like the real life odd couple living in this house where we shot the movie. Burt plays a version of himself. Steve plays a version of himself. The fictional part is Oliver Cooper, who I did write and produce it with. He plays Burt's son, who shows up in the beginning of the movie. So that part is fictional. So, yes, how do we write this? Well, again, getting to know Burt for so many years and having so many conversations with him and really almost like I almost like was like studying him like I was doing a documentary on him. I mean, he would tell me his life story, play his music, tell me where he grew up, tell me about his mom, tell me about his brothers, his dad. I spent like 5 years really hanging out with him a lot. Then we got to meet Steve, his roommate, and go to the house. And, there was this big washer and dryer sitting in the middle of their living room for real when we first got there. And now it's in the movie and it's still sitting there today. It's all this wild, crazy, true stuff. So we did not want to overly influence Steve and Burt and who they are, because the whole point was to capture them, capture their essence, their spirit, their friendship. So we didn't put words in their mouth. In fact, we wrote a very detailed, like 15, 20-page outline, very detailed. I mean, so detailed, in fact, I could take the outline and write the 90-page screenplay in like 2 days. I mean, it was all on the page, but it didn't look pretty. Burt and Steve never read it. It was just for me and Oliver and our cinematographer, Daniel Kenji Levin. So we knew that it worked on the page. And what we do is we shot with two cameras. So I could tell Burt and Steve, hey, this is what's going on in the scene. And because we have one camera here and one camera here, we're cross shooting. It gave me a lot of freedom to shoot with a little bit of improv style, let them sort of speak the way they naturally speak in their voice and their tone. And then in the editing room, when I edited the film, I could kind of, dictate and decide and build the scenes that way. A lot of room for improv, a lot of room for the movie magic, which we captured with this movie. But also, when you're shooting a movie in 7 days, you got to know what you're going to get because you only have 7 days to shoot the movie. So it was a little bit of both, but it allowed us to really capture Burt and Steve's essence, which was the number one thing. And I think we really did that.
Well, it's a good thing that you really understood them as people, before getting into all that, like, hanging out with them for 5 years. Like I didn't know about that. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
And just like, I couldn't imagine hanging out with such personalities.
Oh my
And
God. It's so fun for me and Oliver to like hang out with, because I'm a person. Look at me right now. Like I'm a personality. I mean, it's just like, it's sort of like there's something really engaging about working with non-actors who are just really interesting people. It's something I've done on a few of my films now. Me and Oliver made our first feature called Four Dogs back in the day with his real life aunt, his Aunt Becca. So like we love that kind of stuff.
yeah, you guys almost kind of blur reality and fiction, it seems like. Because Burt, it's a fictional story, fictional characters technically, but Burt and Steven, they're real roommates who live together, and you're kind of capturing their essence, where it feels like you're almost not getting performances, but that's exactly how they are in real life, it seems like. Are there any like exaggerations in their performances
Oh,
at all, or is it like
yes.
what you see is what you get?
No, no, no. I mean, so here's a fun little. So I mean, look, Steve. Again, Steve not an actor either, but Steve kind of understood the assignment in terms of like, you know, Steve would get acting. When I say, hey, Steve, do it like this, or say it a little bit more strict, or be a little bit more, angry at Oliver's character. He's like, man, you're really making the Steve guy a real, if I can say asshole, a real asshole. And then Bert's like, oh yeah, sure, Steve. Like you wouldn't really say that. So they're like, themselves on set. So we kind of pushed the limits a little bit, right? We kind of, you know, there was exaggerations at times, but also it all stemmed out of who they were. There's a great spot in the movie where Steve's character tells Oliver's character Sammy, who's staying at the house for the weekend because he just showed up to meet his father for the first time, says, "Look, you can take a shower, but only 5 minutes of running water. 5 minutes of running water, and that's it." And that is something that he's told us in real life about him and Burt. He's like, "I tell Burt to only take 5 minutes of running water, and he keeps wasting all my money." And we're just like, we're just writing all this stuff down. Like, oh, this is gold. This is all going to go into the movie. So a lot of the essence of what they said, how they behave, is from them, but also they're kind of playing a version of themselves. So it's definitely a mix of both, but they understood that they're playing versions of themselves, especially Steve, who we kind of heightened to be kind of this, kind of more, I don't know, cranky,
Hmm.
character, if you will.
So your big talking point for Burt is that you and Oliver Cooper, you guys have had a filmmaking partnership for a long time. You guys have been working together for a while, and the rest of your cast and crew, you guys made this film in 7 days on a budget of $7,000. That's just amazing to me because when people talk about indie film, I look at the budgets like, oh, it cost 1 million, or it costs like 500,000, which is still a lot of money.
Right.
$7,000, that's kind of feasible for some people. The movie looks so great, the story and characters are so rich, and it kind of shows that it doesn't really matter how much money you have. It's really if you have a good story and you really kind of know what you're doing as a filmmaker. Is that sort of the message you want aspiring indie filmmakers to take away with this story?
I do. I do. Yeah. I mean, look, when we say we shot it in 7 days with $7,000, that is very true. Oliver called me one day and said, "Hey, me, my mom, my sister, a couple friends, we can put basically 7K together to make this Burt movie that we've been talking about. Can we do it for that?" And, had he asked me this 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have been like, dude, $7,000, that's like craft service on a movie. Like, I can't, how you can make a whole movie for that? And then I just got to a point in my life where, I've been in Hollywood or, in LA working towards Hollywood for many years and in and out of the industry and, had agents and had managers, did not, whatever, the whole shebang, pitching TV shows, close calls. I just got tired. I got tired of waiting for permission to make my next movie. I got tired of just sitting around getting all these close calls and being like, God, why do I need people to tell me when I can and not make movies? I want to just make a movie. And so it's sort of like it was just a perfect time in my life to say yes, to start saying yes. And so when Oliver said I got $7,000 on that phone call, I was like, yes. He goes, how many days to shoot? I don't know, 7, and that was it. Like that was the conversation. 2 months later, we're shooting the movie. It is a tiny crew, and it's a tiny crew because I've been doing this for a long time. I'm an associate film professor here in Los Angeles. I've been teaching film school for 12 years. I grew up in Ohio making movies in the backyard when I was 8, 9 years old. Went to film school in Chicago. Went to AFI for grad school. This is my life. So, and I'm an editor. I do the makeup. I do the craft service. I mean, I did the call sheets. I did so much of this on my own, but that's because I've learned how to do it. And so, I think there is something about like getting, just practicing enough where then when you have an opportunity to take like $7,000 and really stretch it to be something bigger, you have the knowledge and the ability to do it. At the same time, we had generous friends. We did borrow 2 cameras from 2 different friends. Nothing overly fancy. I mean, they're great cameras, Canon cameras, which were great. But one was a 5D Mark IV, one was a Canon R6 that my friends owned, and so we got to borrow those. We did very minimal lighting, a lot of natural lighting. We shot at locations like Steve and Burt's actual house that was available to us for essentially free. We paid Steve a little money to shoot there, but we don't have to rent these big locations. And so the takeaway is, you don't have to wait around to make something. You can do a lot with a little. I tell all my film students, find locations. Where can you shoot? Your grandma's house, your friend's house, your uncle's restaurant, whatever. What locations you have access to. Write stories around those locations. Work with family and friends. Don't think like you have to go too big on your story idea. I mean, even this movie Obsession, which I love, Curry Barker's film, and I know some of those guys, Curry's brother Riley, who I really admire, was a former student of mine, a few other people. So I know, and I saw what those guys did with that movie. I mean, Obsession's a huge hit, but look, they got like 4 locations in that movie. They got like 4 main
Yeah.
characters. It's not a big scope movie. It's just done really well. And so I say, try to think of a story that you can do really well on a sort of narrow, more micro budget and sort of like fewer locations, fewer characters. And if you can do that, you're in really good shape. And that's what we did with Burt. And then once I edited the film, about 10 weeks of editing. Once I edited the movie, we showed the film to another friend of ours in Ohio who is an investor and gave us some money to do finishing funds. So we had the production budget of $7,000, but then we raised some more money in post to do music, sound, that kind of stuff, film festivals, etc., which was great.
The thing that interested me most about Burt is that it was shot in black and white. And I feel like nowadays, if you're shooting a movie in black and white, you have to have like a really good thematic, artistic reason for that. And I thought Burt did. It complemented the movie's tone and character so much. Daniel Kenji Levin's cinematography was just fantastic. He posted like some behind the scene pictures, and those are in color. And it kind of like breaks my brain because I can't imagine watching this movie in color. Such a perfect black and white movie. What made you want to shoot the movie like that?
Thank you. Great question. Great point. We wanted to make sure that the idea and that Burt and Steve on screen was going to totally work. So we borrowed another friend's camera and shot a little 10-minute test, footage, whatever, with Burt and Steve and Oliver at the house one day prior. And it was in that kind of test footage stuff where Oliver said, hey, why don't we try making the test footage black and white and just see how it feels? And we did. And we immediately were like, okay, this feels really good. This feels right. It just sort of tied the room together. It made everything feel very timeless. It really played into the themes thematically of sort of like, life is already a past of itself and a memory. And also has a little bit of like a noir feel. The movie's got some like twists and turns, as you know. And so not to spoil anything for the audience, but, so it's got all these factors. Plus it also kind of, black and white. It looked beautiful on their faces and their house, but also it's kind of forgiving. We don't have to overly worry about color palette. Production design kind of blends in black and white world a little bit more easily. So it just, many different factors, both thematically, budget-wise, etc. It really, really worked. I'm not one to make a black and white movie. It's not necessarily my thing, but it just felt so right with this. The black and white really just fit for all those reasons, and I'm, it's interesting. We've toured, like I said, we've toured the country with this movie, and everyone, I always think, oh, black and white, is that gonna, turn people off a little bit? But it doesn't. They're actually like, I forgot it was black and white. They're like, I watched for 5 minutes, and then you just kind of just like you get soaked into the world, and you don't even think about
Hmm.
the black and white. And I think that's awesome. I think it's a real compliment to the film. And Daniel Kenji Levin, the cinematographer, did an incredible job shooting the movie with basically nothing, and also doing the color grade himself. So it's a gorgeous looking movie. He did miracles on this film, the way he shot this, and especially at the budget level. And yeah, I just think it works really, really well. And yeah, when you do see the guys in color, even me, when you like watch the behind the scenes, and you're just like, oh my god, it's like, there is a part of me that's like kind of like, just selfishly, just for fun. Like, I would love to watch like just a version. Like, what's a version of this same exact movie in color, just like one time? I'm just curious. But we absolutely made the right choice, and I have zero regrets. I think it's a beautiful film in the black and white.
You recently started the Joe Burke Filmmaker podcast, where you share
Yeah.
your stories and your experience with other filmmakers.
Yeah, I kind of just a few months ago, started the Joe Burke Filmmaker podcast. I just, look, I'm a big believer, just like kind of like my big thoughts to anyone listening, where I think independent film is going, is I think it's kind of going in the vein of where comedy went a few years ago. The comedians have all started their own YouTube channels, their own podcasts, selling their own tickets for their shows, kind of like outside of the gatekeepers. You don't need Hollywood. You can kind of go just like straight to the audience. And truthfully, I do see independent filmmaking going that direction. And so, because I believe in that so wholeheartedly, I'm like, okay, well, I've done podcasts before. I like talking about film. Like I said, I'm a film professor. I have this movie coming out, so I started this little podcast, just filming in my apartment. I've had some guests on: John Ford, who directed Emily the Criminal and How to Make a Killing, and Emilio Miguel Torres, who you know from Phoenix, who did The Ladder, was a guest of
Hmm.
mine recently. And it just, I really love talking film and talking shop and just building an audience that way. And I think that the response has been great. I think people really enjoy these kind of very kind of heartfelt, nuanced, honest, filmmaker conversations. Or some of the videos are just me talking solo to the camera about our experience making Burt and what I learned and behind the scenes, or how to kind of go out there and do your own sort of, PR, your own marketing, make a movie. How do you make a movie for $7,000? So I like teaching it. I like talking about it. And I'm going to keep doing it, probably keep putting out episodes, at least a few times every month, if not more frequently than that. But it's been a lot of fun. People can find it on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Joe Burke if you want to watch some episodes and check it out. But I enjoy it. I think it's a big part. I want to kind of, I'm just trying to create a community and kind of create, frankly, a brand for myself. Is like, I'm an independent filmmaker. I'm leaning into this. And I think even more so, even a micro budget independent filmmaker. I think it's a strength of mine. I'm realizing it's also something I really enjoy doing. Like, I like being able to make a movies where I don't have to have someone tell me I can't do this or I can't do that. Like, I've been there before. I'm in the DGA. I've directed TV. I know that world. It's great for some people. I don't operate as well. I'm better if I can just sort of work with my friends in a very tight-knit, focused way. Sean Baker, filmmaker of Anora and a bunch of great movies, I really look up to. I know he's very similar in this way, and I know him a little bit, and he's been a big inspiration. So I kind of feel that way. I kind of feel like it's going down this path of telling stories that are personal to me, and having the creative freedom to tell my stories my way, I think better suits me. And so I'm just trying to lean into that and build my own sort of Joe Burke, brand, if you will, and make more movies this way and talk about them and all that fun stuff.
You talk about, just really quick, about
Yeah.
you can do it your own way if you're doing it independently. You don't have to like worry about gatekeeping and everything. And it made me think about AI and how
Mm.
people are like, oh, AI is a great way. Now I don't have to be held back by like having a producer approve this for me. You can do anything with AI. What I like about you and respect about you is that you made your movie with zero AI, and it was fantastic. And so I hope you stick to doing it that way. I don't know
I'm
your
not. I'm not.
feelings
I'm
about
not into
AI or
AI.
anything.
I'm
That's
not
good.
here. I just look. I love telling. We there's gonna have to be some of us who just stick to the traditional. We're making movies.
Absolutely.
And that's where I lean. That's where I am. There are other people who can go out and do the AI thing. More power to them. For me, I like making movies because I like making movies. If I took away the making movie part of it all, you're not really, in my opinion, making a movie the way that I want to. And so it's not fun anymore. It's like it's got to be fun. It really does. Even, I mean, look, even just directing some of the TV stuff I directed, it was awesome to have that privilege in my 20s to be so young, directing some really cool actors on these TV shows and stuff. But I will say my level of excitement for the craft and the work itself wasn't as much as like writing and directing and producing your own stuff. Like, that for me is really where I'm just like, oh, I could do this all day, every day. So now my name, or my way of the game is like, okay, how do I create a path as an independent filmmaker to maybe turn this into a career where I can, God forbid, pay my rent one day, right? It's like, and so this movie Burt coming out on Tuesday, like we're very, very excited about it. It's a very grassroots campaign, doing all the press ourselves, doing the release essentially ourselves with Film Hub, but it's very grassroots, and I'm more than anything, I'm excited to see how it translates. The movie's out right now. People can go on Apple TV and Amazon, and they can buy it right now and rent it, tell their friends. If you want to, reach out to me on Instagram at Joe Burke Film, or go to our website, burkethemovie.com, Burt, burkethemovie.com. All the links are there, the trailer's there. We do need support, but I really think people are going to like this. And I'll say one more thing. It's a great Father's Day gift. If anyone's watching this and they're like, what am I going to get my dad for Father's Day this year? Get him the movie Burt. You can watch it, fun for the whole family. It's a very affordable Father's Day gift. I think your dad will hopefully really appreciate the film. It is a father-son movie with a lot of fun twists and turns and great music. Hunter, I definitely appreciate your continued support of this movie. It's always meant so much to us and me personally that you really love the movie, and also you've been really such an advocate for it. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's just so good. And I just think it's a movie that everybody needs to see. I think it should be a big hit. Like, it's just one of those things. I'm like, there's so many things out there. I'm like, if this could just get on Netflix or something, man, people would be talking about it. If you guys haven't been convinced with Joe Burke's passion here about the movie or what the movie's about, you can go read my review on azfamily.com where I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a fantastic movie. So again, check out Burt. It's on the digital platforms. You can rent it. And this is Joe Burke, the writer and the director of the film. And I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Hunter, for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone listening. I hope you guys enjoy the movie.
Looking forward to spending some more time with you tomorrow, kiddo. You need to get some sleep.
Night, Burt.
Good night, son.